Welcome into the QuikCast, the official podcast of Kwik Trip. My name is Chris Calloway, and I'm joined today by Keven Ringgold, the man behind Cherry Pair Customs, and the guy who brought to life an awesome pair of Kwik Trip sneakers, which you can enter in the sweepstakes right now in your Kwik Rewards app for a chance to win. Keven, welcome onto the QuikCast.
Thanks, Chris. Thanks for having me.
And these sneakers are awesome. We've got them right here. You can also check them out in the Kwik Rewards app, and we've shared some pictures on social media and everything, but they're completely custom painted Nike Air Force One low. We're giving away 6 pairs of them, and the only thing I don't like about the shoes is that they are not currently in my size, so you could work on that.
For sure. You got to win it. You got to be in it to win it, right, Chris?
Yeah, so we're excited to be giving those away, but let's talk about your history. You have a business, Cherry Pair Customs. You design shoes, but take me back a little bit. How did you first kind of get into sneakers and footwear and that whole field that you're working in now?
Sure. So I got into footwear, thinking going back as far as like 1996, I think is when I got my start in footwear. I have a degree in industrial design, product design. And I grew up, I'm like an 80s kid, right? So I grew up in the era where Jordan and Bird and Magic were all getting endorsements. And that was like, from Converse and Nike, obviously, that was a really big change in how athletes were being, sponsored and endorsed. And so I've always loved footwear. I've always loved sports. And so once I graduated, I parlayed that into footwear, which if folks listening aren't entirely sure about it, but basically a lot of industrial designers get into footwear design as a career. And so that's what I did. I found my way into footwear early on in my career. I wanted to specialize in footwear. Luckily landed in my early days at some consulting companies. So I started my career on the athletic side of footwear, consulting with all different brands on the East Coast, Saucony, New Balance, Teva, in all sorts of sports categories as well. So performance running, basketball training, and everything. So I've kind of had some experience in all those categories. And again, I've been doing it for almost 30 years. So it's a ton of fun. I love it. I love sneakers and love shoes. So that's kind of how I got started in it.
So how have things changed, in the 30 years that you've been in it? Obviously, the Jordan 1s come out and he's getting fined by the NBA for wearing them, and Nike's loving
my favorite shoes, by the way.
Yeah, I mean, they're classics.
Yeah,
any sneakerhead has to have a pair of Jordan 1s, but it's exploded, but also sort of stayed the same. Like the Jordan 1s are still popular today. So like, what have you kind of seen over the past couple of decades? Just your take on the industry as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of have mixed feelings about it. It's been one of those things where obviously technology has changed a lot of what's happening in basketball and performance footwear, which is great, right? I mean, things are more comfortable. There's all types of technology going into it to enhance performance at many different levels. The mixed side of it, though, is really like a lot of it has stayed the same. I think what you find now is the sneakerhead and the customs has been such a big business for companies like Nike and New Balance that, I feel like they're really putting a lot of time and effort into just spinning colors to keep that going to the point where they've lost a lot of the quality. They're throwing colors out, as daily, weekly on things, and it kind of loses the oomph or the specialness, I think, of some of those sneakers and some of the customs as they were. It's a flooded market. It's crazy. I mean, in the time that I've been doing this, there's been more brands entering the market and leaving the market. Performance running has changed. You got all kinds of brands now that are playing in that realm, and it's flooded. It's nuts.
And how important are those types of endorsement deals and those partnerships? Like, obviously, I don't know if Nike looks the way it does right now if they don't sign Michael Jordan, or if he doesn't, if he picks Converse over them back in the 80s. Yeah. But, some of those performance running brands, they have some high profile endorsers as well. I mean, how important are some of those partnerships to keep these brands afloat?
I think they're really important. I think that's the way that consumers connect. They connect to the athletes. And I think it's really an important way for like brands, including Nike, New Balance, you name it, to make their stamp in a sport where they have the best athletes wearing their shoes, right? I mean, it's just kind of a way to, I guess, emphasize just how good their brand is over the next person's brand. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But
And
yeah,
there's
go ahead.
there's the old adage that, like, Larry Bird and guys in this even before that were wearing the floppy Converse high tops, and they had bad ankles because of it. And so technology has come a long way in helping to increase the level of the athletes wearing the shoes. But what sort of technology, and like how does that aspect of like increasing performance have to merge with what you want to do as a designer?
Yeah, I mean, it's funny because like early on in my days, more of the performance running side of things and performance basketball was more of what I focused and specialized in. These days, I'm doing more of the other side of footwear, which is casual, dress casual, and so those two worlds, the sports performance side of footwear and the dress casual side of footwear, have really started to merge. They have been for many years, but everybody's kind of stealing technology and comfort technologies from each other and figuring out if somebody comes up with something slightly new and different that they feel enhances performance, and you got other brands kind of trying to do their version, their take on the same thing. But it's really important. And like I said, as the footwear brands have evolved and material has changed, and new compounds have come to the forefront, allowing things to be lighter, more springy, recycled. Sustainability is a big part of it as well. So all of these concepts have kind of merged together, on the performance and on the casual and dress side of things as well. So it's a pretty important part of what everybody's doing and really trying to enhance their footwear in, for sure.
So, having kind of been on both sides of it, then what type of those projects, have intrigued you the most over your career?
Probably, as a designer, I think any opportunity I get to tell a story and really dig in on the research side of things, tell a story with the product, is what I think intrigues me the most. And what I mean by that is, there are certain projects that are kind of fast and furious that don't require quite as much research and technology. And there are projects that allow you to dig in more on the consumer. So you have consumer insight, you have performance characteristics that they're looking for. You have trend research, color, materials. There's a whole host of things that goes into that early stage, and then ultimately through to the final stage of the footwear that I always find is the type of shoe and type of product I dig in the most with. It's just fun to kind of dig in from all those levels.
So are you wearing shoes that you had a hand in designing, or like what kind of shoes do you find yourself wearing the most?
I'm often no. So the short answer to that is most, like right now I have a pair of like Jordan 2s on, Jordan 2 lows. And so the company I design for now does focus more on a lot of dress casual
Mm-hmm.
footwear, which is not what I often find myself in. I'm more likely to be found in sneakers, Nike's, New Balance. New Balance is probably one of the more comfortable pairs of shoes. Stylistically, as you mentioned, I love the Jordans and some of the early Nike shoes. So that's typically what you'll find me in. That's where my love is, to be honest with you. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think sometimes New Balance gets a bad rap, but if you get a comfortable pair of 574s on, I mean, I've got them in a number of different
They're the
colorways,
best,
and
man.
just something about being a dad rocking the New Balance. It fits right,
100%. I'm with you 100%. And New Balance, like I mentioned, I worked at New Balance for a few years. And so anything that I design is kind of gone and kind of gone through. I wasn't fortunate enough to design any of the classics that have stuck around. But they're just such comfortable shoes, and it's a great brand. I mean, they've changed such a, so much since the early days, again, with endorsements and the classics that seem to be what everybody's wearing today. So it's yeah, super cool.
So you mentioned the Jordan 1s as kind of being the gold standard. What other types of sneakers stand out as either ones that you kind of idolize or ones that you would love to put in your closet somewhere, or kind of what are those hallmarks of the sneakerdom that, you want to get your hands on?
I mean, I don't have any Travis Scotts. I love what they've done with reversing the swoosh out there and some of the materials they've done there. On the sneakers app, it's kind of a crapshoot in terms of, trying to win the shoes, going in, throwing your name in there and waiting to see what happens. But I haven't scored any of those yet. That would probably be one of my top choices. But yeah, I've got 2 kids that I got to put through college. So as much of a sneakerhead as I am, I have to temper my desire to spend on those things, because I do have quite a few shoes, but you never have enough, in my opinion. But I do have to kind of temper my desire for a lot of those shoes that are out there, and so I'm sure you get that.
That sneakers app, it's sort of like the best and worst thing about sneakers. Like they drop and you have seconds, if that, to jump on them sometimes, and that joy of getting the got 'em, and you're able to finally drop $300 on a pair of sneakers you weren't planning on doing, but then just almost you get to share in the rejection, because I see people post that on social media all the time, like, I missed out on these once again, or sneakers app came up empty once again. Like, it's sort of brilliant what they did, kind of controlling the supply and the demand side of things there, but it's very frustrating as a consumer too.
100%, 100%. I agree with you. Yeah, I mean, and it's what drives the demand, right? I mean, you score on 1 out of, I don't know what, 10, 15 shots, right? And so it just keeps people coming back, for sure. I mean, it is brilliant. It really is brilliant. It is aggravating at the same time, but I think we all, when you nail that one and you get the got 'em, you're firing it off to your buddies, and because you got friends that were trying to grab them, and for whatever reason, I don't know how the algorithm works.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what they're up to with that, but it's weird how you get them sometimes, and even if you're right on it too, you're like, okay, 3, 2, 1,
Mm-hmm.
purchase, right? And sometimes you get them, sometimes you don't. So it's a frustrating app, but it is genius.
How about this? Do you wear all of the sneakers that you do end up buying? Or are some still in a box somewhere?
I do,
okay.
Actually. I mean, I don't box anything and keep them like for future. I don't, depending on which ones they are and the quality of them, I don't wear them as often as others. So that's how I'd probably answer that. But I'm not the guy who's buying them, keeping them in a box. Like, I feel like I want to wear them and show them. Right?
Mm-hmm.
They're not doing anybody any good sitting in your closet. I mean, I get it, but I just prefer to wear them.
I have one pair that I haven't worn. I have the Giannis Zoom Freak 3 Uno edition. And so they got the yellow, blue, red, and green. And I just haven't worn them yet. I don't know if I'm waiting for the right situation or not, but those are the only ones that are sitting in my closet. I have a pair of lime green Jordans that I do like to wear. I got my classic Air Force Ones that actually dress up pretty nicely.
Yeah.
But again, I have a size 16, so they're not always coming in my size either. All of the Nike Dunks that come out there only come to a 15, so I miss out on all of those.
Oh man, yeah, that's too bad. It probably saves you a bunch of money though at the same time, sure. And frustration at that.
Yeah, and my wife and I talk, like, she has more pairs of shoes than I do for sure, but mine take up way much more space.
I bet. Yeah, exactly.
I got a pair of high top Air Force Ones and a size 16, and those take up the whole shelf.
Those are like moon boots, Chris.
Right. So, speaking of those Air Force Ones, let's talk about the project that we collaborated on here. It's an awesome looking Nike Air Force One low, but we made it completely Kwik Trip. So, kind of take us through your thought process there. We said, okay, here's a blank canvas. What's the story that you started to figure out as you went through kind of your research and development process before you actually put, pen to paper, as they say?
Yes. Yeah. So one of the things that obviously, you and I collaborated on this, so it was super cool to get, some input from you on the project as well. But again, what I really wanted to do is dig in on the brand And since we kind of set up some parameters, in terms of like how kind of wild we wanted to get with this, and we were pretty focused on making it Kwik Trip, as you said. I dug in quite a bit on the brand, the history of the brand, where the brand was started, the year it was started, where it was located. Things like colors. I went into several Kwik Trips just to kind of spend a little time walking around and kind of taking in, kind of digesting the palette and how things were laid out, and got some really kind of interesting ideas. And frankly, when you go into a project like that and you have a different sensibility about what you're looking for, things kind of seep in a little bit more, like the urge part of the branding and some of the patterns and colors and things that wouldn't necessarily have jumped out at me to begin with. So when I started this,
yeah, and it was really cool to see kind of how your designs came about. And us working at Kwik Trip, we live and breathe and we see this stuff every day. You started out basically just as a consumer of Kwik Trip, as somebody that goes in there, but then maybe started to notice a few more of the aesthetic things about it. So to see kind of somebody from your perspective, they're like, okay, this is what I think Kwik Trip stands for, and how close it aligned with what we think Kwik Trip stands for, and the way it all came together on the shoe. Everybody that I've shown thinks it's awesome. And you mentioned, the classic red, you and I can talk about, specific PMS colors that go into
yeah, for
the
sure.
Pantones and this, that, and the everything. But like you nail the red, but just like the way that the swoosh, and if you look closely on the swoosh, it's our roof of our building. And that, I mean, it's a little touch that your average person might not recognize, but once you like delve into the story a little bit, like it kicks it up a little bit more, right?
Yeah, 100%. And that you hit it on the head. I mean, for me, that iconic, and I looked a lot online. So obviously, so many of the Kwik Trip images are the roof line and that metal tin roof, the red, the cream. And so that's, to me, was like super iconic. And I thought, what a cool way to bring in those vertical lines that are just super identifiable with the roof of most of the Kwik Trip, stores, and bringing it into the shoes in a way that, yeah, if you don't really know it, you might wonder like what's with the stripes on the swoosh and what's going on in the back tab there. But again, it's like, for me, some of those little details and the discovery elements that maybe require a little more explanation than some of the others, I think is what kind of gets me going. It's pretty cool.
And then if you look around the toe, it's sort of a subtle camouflage pattern, but it's not just any camouflage pattern. It's the pattern that goes on to our Urge potato chips and beef jerky and whatnot. It's
right.
It's subtle, but okay, that's another cool little pop, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Again, another little discovery piece that is super subtle. And I think that's one, the Urge and your branding is not one I think people necessarily see at, right away. That was something that took me a little while walking through your retail, and getting through some of the product that kind of dawned on me is like, this is cool. Like, this is unique. Like, you get, you're right. It's like a camo, but it's not. It's your pattern. And it stands for Kwik Trip and it stands for the Urge brand. And again, super cool way to kind of bring in something that obviously camouflage is super relevant. But it's like a take on that, which I was super psyched about. I thought that was really cool.
One of the other cool things is on the tongue of one of the shoes, we have our classic Don smiley face, which people at Kwik Trip know, but it's something that our founder and CEO, Don Zitlow, was famous for drawing, and is just his little take. And so it's like definitely a little Kwik Trip Easter egg there. We also got little gas pumps on the tips of the shoelace too, which I was not expecting. It's a cool little extra touch that we hadn't discovered. But how do you pull this off? How do you actually get the gas pump on the tip of the shoelace there?
Yeah, that was to me the icing on the cake. And like Chris said there, I wanted to surprise you with that one. It kind of came up a little bit late in the process, but I was really looking for something that, at least in my opinion, kind of take it over the edge a bit. And so, again, given the fact that I'm in the footwear business, I kind of access to a lot of things, and doing different things that I think not all customizers have the ability to do, which I think is kind of fun and kind of separates me a little bit. But the gas pump thing, that's a 3D printed, gas nozzle, right? So I 3D printed it. Actually had to drill out the end of it so it would fit over the, because I had specified a dimension in there, and so it just took a lot of finagling.
Hmm.
And you can see the scale; those are pretty tiny. And hand painted them in the red, and then hand painted the nozzle in the metallic silver. And I thought that was just a really cool way to pay tribute to the Kwik Trip gas station with the little nozzle. That again, I've never seen that before, and I think it just makes these shoes really special. I hope everyone appreciates those details and is gonna try and get after these in the sweepstakes for sure.
That's for sure. And so you got these shoes. They were white, blank. We had the gum rubber customized on the bottom, but then all white shoes. What's kind of the step-by-step process? Obviously, we don't have to go into detail on every little
Yeah.
step there, but you essentially have a blank canvas. What's kind of your method into digging into how you get these things customized?
Yeah. I mean, first of all, there's a prep side to it, because anytime you get the shoes, they won't take the paint and all the things that you do to them right away. So there's a prep piece of it that takes some time to get ready. And these shoes are really cool, Chris, in particular. I think you and I talked about this, but these Air Force Ones, which, as you said, started out 100% completely white, other than the gum bottom, are a really nice quality. The leather, for any sneakerheads that might be interested in these, the leather on these is really soft, and it's a real high quality tumbled leather that is not what you typically get in your standard Air Force Ones, which is a much cheaper, type of leather. So these are super high quality. So there's a little bit of prep time, and then I kind of go through the steps in my head in terms of like, okay, how, what am I going to paint first? What do I have to mask off? And start to go through all those steps. A lot of it is the mixing, early on is the mixing of the paint, which, again, all those colors are custom. Nothing's off the rack. So I had to mix the custom paint for Kwik Trip, the blues, the creams, everything is, takes a little bit of time to do. So I kind of get the paint set, get that kind of set aside, and then it's kind of diving in, man. Then it's taping off and, hand painting and trying to be kind of super, detailed on those areas, not trying to get certain parts, like the collar area and those kinds of things. So it's a pretty delicate, painstaking process to do these customs, but a ton of fun.
So do you kind of got to get in the zone? I mean, I imagine you're not just whipping out a paintbrush at your kitchen table. You've got a whole
Yeah.
workshop set up, all the music going or whatever you want. You're in the zone and you're kind of locked in for a couple of hours working on these at a time, and then take a break and go on to the next step. Or kind of what's your process there?
Yeah, you're 100% right. I have, I wish it was something super fancy, but yeah, I've got a workshop in the basement of my house. I got everything I've got my paints. I've got my table set up. I've got my airbrush unit. I got my exhaust fan in there. Music is going, and it takes blocks of time, because you can't, it takes a lot of patience, and it takes blocks of time, hours to really get in the zone. And then there's times where you're kind of going bonkers and your eyes are going, crazy, and you need to just kind of step away from it. So yeah, that's exactly how it goes. I get in there and I kind of bury myself down there. And there's paint dry time and wait time. So, and if, you kind of plan things so that, if I'm waiting for this to dry, I can maybe move along something else, some other part of the custom that, that I was thinking about and doing. So, but yeah, you get in the zone, man, and you kind of start having at it.
Can I ask what the most difficult part, like maybe the most technically difficult or material difficult, like what was the most challenging part of doing this?
Probably the camouflage, the camo, kind of the urge pattern on the toe. The way that you end up kind of coming up with that is, I create a stencil for that, which is all custom based on, kind of looking at your packaging and stuff. It's a stencil, and because the toe is round, the stencil happens in two pieces. So you have to wrap the stencil around the toe, and it comes in multiple pieces. So, when I apply it, it's very difficult to make sure things line up the proper way. And so that's probably one of the more challenging areas of the shoe to deal with. Anytime you're dealing on things, on the toe like that, the way it wraps around. So that was pretty challenging. The heel is also challenging too, where you have the overlay of the Nike Air meeting, in cream, meeting those vertical lines and the blue underneath, because you got a lot of different things, coming together there. And so as not to kind of run the blue into the other cream and stuff. So just where a lot of those things meet together. There's a lot of toothpick work on that.
Sure.
There's like a lot of small detail work on that stuff.
I mean, the end result is awesome. And the cool part is you get to do it again a few times. So
that's right.
The way that we're setting up the sweepstakes is we got this first one made so that we can see it and show it off, and you can see all the pictures on social media. But then when we draw the winners, we are going to make sure those winners can get a size that they want, that they can go out and wear around town. And so there's going to come a time we're going to pick 5 more winners, and then you're going to have 5 more blank canvases to show up at your house. So let's say you're working on a ladies size 8 or a men's size 13. Everything's going to be kind of different the way it all scales, especially like with that pattern and maybe how many stripes you're dealing with, because the swoosh is slightly bigger. I mean, that in and of itself is going to be its own challenge. If they were all size 10, that's one thing, but you're going to have another little challenge on your hands too, right?
Absolutely. The beauty of it is I have all of the stuff set up now, so
Sure.
Again, when I go in and create all the custom artwork, all the stencils, but yeah, you're 100% right. Because what I'll do is I print out everything beforehand and scale it appropriately for the size of the swoosh, for example, or the toe, whatever. But it does become, different for every shoe. And again, being that everything is hand painted and hand done, there's really no like way to fast track any of the stuff. It is the same every single time. There's no way to kind of do any of the stuff more quickly. But the good thing is, a lot of the artwork and obviously the paint is mixed, so there's some savings there. But when it comes to actually getting into the shoes, there's no short or quick way to do it.
Well, that's why when we pick our winners at the end of June, it's going to be. We're not promising the shoes until sometime probably in October, because we want to give the artist enough time to do his work there. And so it's going to be a cool process, but we know that for the winners, it's definitely going to be worth it to kind of get that custom touch on all those pairs.
Absolutely. And as you said, I mean, it's going to be awesome. I'm super excited to see who the winners are, see what kind of sizes I'll be dealing with. And this has been a great project. Absolutely. I love it.
And so then your brand there, Cherry Pear Customs, you've worked on some projects in the past. You got some cool stuff on your social media. I think those are the types of accounts I end up scrolling through anyways, just like sneaker accounts and behind the scenes, and like all that stuff is fascinating to me. But I know you're going to be sharing some more content from your process designing these. We've got you tagged in our social media handles, but that kind of side gig you got there, you've got to do some cool projects with that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. One of the other things that's a big love of mine is the sport of lacrosse. And one of the things that I get, it's a thrill for me to work on any of these shoes for anybody, any sport, but lacrosse is just one in particular. And I've had the opportunity to do custom shoes for some professional lacrosse players, which has just been awesome. And everything is different. Sometimes it's sports theme oriented. Sometimes it's just working with the athlete. If they have a particular idea in mind and they want to execute, they might give me some ideas. And then again, I'm often kind of running and doing something really special for those guys. Sometimes it's family, sometimes it's, I enjoy doing it for anybody that really appreciates the process. That's always a lot of fun. And sometimes I get more input from others. And sometimes I don't, and it gives me some freedom to do whatever I want as a designer, which is kind of fun. So it's a great side gig. that I've been doing dress shoes too. I've done some dress shoes, which have been pretty cool as well. I did some stuff for Marquette's lacrosse coach back in the day, who's now at Navy, and so I've done some dress shoe customs, which again is not normally what you see. Most of the custom stuff is done on sneakers, and so dress shoes is something I've done as well. So,
well, I mean, these are awesome. We love the shoes. We love working with you. We love that you're living in Wisconsin. You're a fan of Kwik Trip too. It seemed like a nice meshing of a couple of passions there, and I'm excited to see more of the reception to the sweepstakes here, and hopefully a lot of people enter for their chance to win. So we're going to be, posting a lot more content. Like, you can follow Kevin. What are your social media handles there again?
Cherry Pear Customs. So on Instagram. Yep. That's kind of where I live.
Cherry Pear Customs. Keven Ringgold, we appreciate your time. We appreciate all your hard work on these shoes. Some more work coming up after we draw those winners, but we appreciate your time on the QuikCast this afternoon, and thanks for all you do with our sneakers.
Thanks a lot, Chris. I love this project. Can't wait for the next winners to come along. I'm excited.
Thanks, Kevin, and we'll see you next time.
Okay, appreciate it. Thank you.